Everyone. I trust you're having a good Wednesday. It is May 6th. So, learning from following our example from the last couple of days, we're going to look at a proverb a day to keep the devil away. It's May 6th. We're going to be in Proverbs chapter 6, verses 6 through 8. Tried to put it on so that you could see the verses. I'm not sure. I can't see my screen, so I'm not sure if it's there. But if you can see it, and if you can't see it, you can go ahead and get your copy of God's Word from Proverbs chapter 6, verses 6 through 8. Want to remind you again, when we walk into Proverbs, a couple of key principles we want to remember when we study. Proverbs are principles, these are not promises. When we read Proverbs, they can either compare, contrast, or complete each other. They build one line on another line within one verse. They're meant to be easily memorized and understood. The overall theme of Proverbs is to fear or respect the Lord, and it's written to young people to help them gain wisdom. Wisdom is the application of knowledge. In chapters 1 through 6, a parent is writing to his child, so it's a parent's instruction to his children, both young and old, to choose a wise path. If you look at Proverbs chapter 6, it's broken down in a couple different ways. Different translations call it different things. Chapter 6 is lessons for daily life. The New King James calls it indolence, which is a fancy term for saying laziness or slothfulness. So by now you should be in Proverbs chapter 6, verses 6 through 8. It says, before I read that, I want to tell you what we're going to read, and we're going to go from there. Solomon is not speaking directly to his son or calling his son lazy at this time, but he is using the example of someone else. And when I was studying this morning, it made me think of one of the sayings my dad has. My dad always told me growing up, Tom, a dumb man does not learn from his mistakes. A smart man learns from his mistakes, but a wise man learns from the other person's mistakes. Now, I heard this day after day, week after week, year after year, and after a while, out of respect, kids just kind of roll their eyes and go, yeah, it's the same dad saying. And now I find myself saying the same thing to my girls, but I have remembered this saying. And I can remember my dad saying, now, young Tom, are you going to be dumb? Are you going to be smart? Or are you going to be wise? And so Solomon is taking this same principle. My dad probably took it from Solomon and saying, don't be dumb, be smart. And don't just be smart, but be wise. Learn from someone else, from the example. So we want to learn from the mistakes, and we want to learn from the example of others. So with that in mind, let's go to Proverbs chapter 6, verses 6 through 8. Solomon looks at his son and says, go to the ant, you sluggard. Go to the ant, you who are lazy. Now look at the contrast here. The ant is not lazy, but the audience could possibly be lazy. So you see that contrast that is happening. Consider her ways and be wise. Remember, wisdom is the application of knowledge. So we're going to look at the ant because the ant is not lazy, and we're going to look at their ways, and we're going to be able to gain wisdom from their example. Verse 7, the ants, which having no captain, overseer, or ruler. So the ant doesn't have someone overseeing her. There is a hierarchy within the animal kingdom, but don't get lost in that. Get lost in what Solomon's trying to tell his son. He's saying, look at the ant. There's nobody overseeing the ant. There's nobody telling the ant what to do, but the ant is very motivated. Verse 8, he or she, the ant, provides her supplies in the summer. The ant is going to work in the summer when the food is plentiful, and then gathers her food in the harvest, so that when it's winter, the ant has enough food to make it through the winter and then survive. And then in the spring and summer, the ant comes back out and is able to have food to survive. And then the harvest comes back, and then she is able to get that harvest and put away for the next winter. Some great applications, 2 lessons that we can learn from the ant to help fight off laziness or help teach our children, because this is a father writing to his son. So we as parents want to teach our children not to be lazy, and Solomon used an object lesson. What are the 2 lessons we can learn from the ant? The first one is the ant worked without supervision. The ant worked independently because of inner motivation. The ant wanted to work. because the ant didn't want to be hungry in the wintertime. Now, God, when He created the ant, created that inner motivation and that inner knowledge. I believe God created us with a desire to work. And so there is that inner motivation to work. Look at verse 7. There's no captain, there's no ruler, there's no overseer over to the ant to force her to work. She just wants to work because of that inner motivation. And second of all, look at what the ant does. The ant prepares for the future. Winter is coming, and she needs to save the food for when the food is scarce. So she's going to not miss this opportunity to eat food when the food is there, but she's also going to store up food when the time is not there, when the time is gone, that the food is gone as well. So what really, there's two things I see here. We need to work without supervision. We need to have inner motivation and eat well and prepare well when the wellness is there. And then we need to look for the future and prepare for the future. When I was studying this, I'm over, but I'm rolling now. When I was preparing for this, I thought about finances and how many times we get overtime and we eat high in the hog and there's money coming hand over fist. We need to be wise to put away for those times of great harvest, like the ant did in verses 6 and 7, because then when there's times where the overtime is gone, or there's a financial crisis or a pandemic that we're going through, then you still have finances to be able to rely upon. If you follow Dave Ramsey with Financial Peace, he always talks about an emergency fund. That is where this principle feeds into as far as finances. So let's learn from the ant. Let's work without supervision. Let's use that motivation that God gave us. And then let's prepare for the future, because winter is coming. And right now, for some of you, winter is here and you need to save and start to save and be able to survive when food is scarce or money is scarce. So let's help our children to learn from these lessons, to not be lazy. I hope you have a great Wednesday. We're going to have Bible study tonight at 6:30. We're going to be in James chapter 1, the end of James 1. So hopefully you can join us for Facebook Live for a Bible study. Hope you have a great Wednesday. Have a good and godly day.